Welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about one of the most extraordinary builders on our planet. And no, it is not humans. It is the ant. Imagine a city with millions of residents. It has roads, waste disposal systems, nurseries for children, food storage rooms, and even ventilation shafts to control the temperature. Now imagine that this entire city was built without a single architect, without a blueprint, and without anyone giving orders. That is exactly what an ant colony is. And today, we are going to find out how ants manage to build something so incredible. Let us start with a simple question. Have you ever watched a single ant walking across your kitchen floor? It looks a little lost, does it not? It wanders, stops, changes direction. It seems completely random. So how can millions of these tiny creatures work together to build something so complex? The answer is something scientists call stigmergy. Do not worry about the word. Think of it like this. Imagine you are in a dark room, and you leave a trail of breadcrumbs as you walk. The next person who enters the room follows your breadcrumbs. Then they add more breadcrumbs. Soon, without ever talking to each other, everyone in the room is following the same path. That is stigmergy. Communication through the environment itself. Ants do this with chemicals called pheromones. When an ant finds food, it walks back to the nest and leaves a chemical trail on the ground. Other ants smell this trail and follow it. When they find the food too, they walk back and add their own chemical trail. The more ants that use the path, the stronger the smell becomes. The stronger the smell, the more ants follow it. Very quickly, hundreds of ants are all moving along the same efficient route, without anyone planning it. This is the foundation of everything ants do. They do not need a leader telling them what to build. They respond to chemical signals in their environment. And from millions of these tiny individual responses, something magnificent emerges. Now let us talk about the colony itself. A typical ant colony is built underground. The queen ant, who is much larger than the other ants, starts the colony alone. She digs a small chamber, lays her first eggs, and raises the first workers herself. These first workers are small because the queen does not have much food. But they are enough to begin the real construction. Think of the queen like the first seed of a tree. She does not build the whole tree herself. She just starts the process, and everything grows from there. As the colony grows, the workers begin to dig. They carry tiny pieces of soil up to the surface, one grain at a time. It sounds impossibly slow. But remember, there can be millions of workers doing this at the same time. Scientists have estimated that a leafcutter ant colony can move more than 40 tons of soil over its lifetime. That is heavier than 6 adult elephants. But here is something fascinating. The ants do not just dig randomly. The tunnels they create follow very specific patterns. There are wide main tunnels near the surface, like highways. These branch off into smaller tunnels, which lead to chambers of different sizes. Some chambers are used for storing food. Some are nurseries where eggs and young ants are kept. Some are even used as rubbish rooms, where dead ants and waste are stored away from the rest of the colony. How do the ants know where to dig? Again, it comes back to pheromones. When an ant digs in a certain direction and finds soft soil, it leaves a chemical signal. Other ants follow and dig in the same direction. When the soil becomes harder or the tunnel reaches a good size, the chemical signal changes. Workers stop digging and move to a different area. The tunnel system builds itself through millions of individual decisions, each one guided by chemical information. Now, here is something that might surprise you. Ant colonies are not just holes in the ground. They are sophisticated climate control systems. Deep underground, the temperature stays cool and stable even when the surface is extremely hot. The ants know this. They move their eggs and young larvae to different depths depending on the temperature. In the morning, when the top layers warm up, workers carry the young ones closer to the surface. At night, or during a heat wave, they move them deeper. The colony acts like a living thermostat. Some ant species go even further. The famous leafcutter ants of South America build colonies with ventilation systems that would impress any engineer. They create special tunnels that allow hot air to rise and escape, pulling cool fresh air in from below. Scientists have studied these ventilation systems and found that they work on the same principles as modern building design. The ants discovered these principles millions of years before humans did. Let us talk about the different roles inside the colony. Think of the colony like a human city. In a city, different people have different jobs. There are builders, teachers, doctors, and rubbish collectors. An ant colony works the same way. The queen's only job is to lay eggs. She can live for up to 30 years and lay millions of eggs in her lifetime. The male ants have just one purpose too. They mate with the queen and then die shortly after. Their lives are very short. The female worker ants do everything else. And here is something interesting. A worker ant's job actually changes as she gets older. Young workers stay inside the nest. They take care of the eggs, feed the larvae, and clean the chambers. As they get older, they move to more dangerous jobs. Middle-aged workers dig tunnels and expand the nest. The oldest workers become foragers. They go outside to find food. This makes sense from the colony's point of view. If an old forager dies outside, the colony loses less than if a young nurse ant dies. But here is what almost no one talks about. Ants can actually change their role based on what the colony needs. If too many foragers die, younger workers will move to foraging earlier than normal. If the queen dies, some species of ants can even produce a new queen from the remaining workers. The colony is not just a collection of individuals following fixed rules. It is a flexible, adaptive system that responds to change. Scientists sometimes call it a superorganism, because in many ways, the colony behaves like a single living creature. This idea of the superorganism is one of the most fascinating concepts in biology. Think of your own body for a moment. Your body is made of trillions of individual cells. Each cell is alive. Each cell does its own job. But together, they create something far more complex than any single cell could be. You are the emergent result of trillions of tiny lives working together. An ant colony works in exactly the same way. The colony is alive in a way that no single ant is. Now let us talk about some of the most extraordinary builders in the ant world. The leafcutter ants of Central and South America build colonies that can house up to 8 million individuals. Their underground cities can reach 5 meters deep and spread over 50 square meters. That is roughly the size of a large apartment. But what makes leafcutter ants truly remarkable is what they do inside those cities. They do not eat the leaves they carry. They use the leaves to grow a fungus. The ants are farmers. They have been farming the same species of fungus for over 50 million years. The fungus cannot survive without the ants, and the ants cannot survive without the fungus. They evolved together, completely dependent on each other. Inside the colony, there are special chambers just for the fungus garden. Worker ants chew the leaves into a soft paste, add it to the garden, and carefully remove any foreign fungi or bacteria that might harm their crop. There are even tiny ants, called minims, whose only job is to sit on the leaves being carried by larger ants and defend the fungus from parasites during the journey back to the nest. Another extraordinary builder is the weaver ant. Instead of digging underground, weaver ants build their nests in trees. They pull leaves together and seal them using silk. But here is the remarkable part. Adult weaver ants cannot produce silk. Only their larvae can. So the adult workers carry the larvae in their mouths and use them like living glue guns, pressing the larvae against the leaf edges to produce the silk that holds the nest together. The larvae do not seem to be harmed by this. It is one of the strangest and most creative uses of a body part in the entire animal kingdom. Let us also consider fire ants, which show perhaps the most dramatic example of collective building. When fire ants are caught in a flood, they do something extraordinary. They link their bodies together using their legs and jaws to form a living raft. The raft can float for weeks. The ants on the bottom are not drowned because the structure traps air bubbles. The ants rotate positions so that no individual ant stays underwater for too long. They build a boat out of themselves. No single ant decided to do this. No ant is in charge. The behavior emerges from the collective response to danger. Scientists have studied fire ant rafts carefully and found that they are remarkably efficient structures. The raft is waterproof, buoyant, and self-repairing. If you push part of the raft underwater, the ants quickly reorganize to bring it back to the surface. Engineers are now studying these rafts to design new kinds of flexible, self-repairing materials. And that brings us to why all of this matters for us. The study of ants has already changed the way we think about many things. Computer scientists have used the idea of pheromone trails to create algorithms that solve complex routing problems. If you have ever used a GPS navigation app that finds the fastest route through a city, you have benefited from research inspired by ants. These algorithms, called ant colony optimization, are used in logistics, telecommunications, and artificial intelligence. Architects and engineers are studying ant ventilation systems to design more energy-efficient buildings. Robotics researchers are building swarms of small robots that work together using ant-like communication, with no central controller. These robot swarms could one day be used to search for survivors in disaster zones, or to explore other planets. Medical researchers are studying how ant colonies manage disease. When an ant dies inside the colony, workers remove the body within hours. When an outbreak of a pathogen is detected, ants change their behavior to reduce contact between infected and healthy individuals. Understanding how colonies manage health could give us new ideas for controlling the spread of disease in human populations. Perhaps the deepest lesson from ants is this. Intelligence does not have to live in a single brain. It can emerge from the interaction of many simple individuals, each following simple rules, each responding to its immediate environment. The colony is smarter than any ant. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We often think of intelligence as something that belongs to individuals. But ants remind us that some of the most powerful problem-solving in nature happens collectively. And as humans face increasingly complex global challenges, from climate change to pandemics to resource management, the ant colony might be one of our most important teachers. So the next time you see a line of ants marching across a pavement, stop for a moment. Do not think of them as pests. Think of them as engineers, farmers, architects, and scientists. Think of them as a single living mind made of millions of tiny bodies, quietly solving problems that have puzzled human engineers for centuries. The greatest city on Earth might not be New York or Tokyo. It might be the one hidden just beneath your feet.